You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. How are you doing tonight? I think I gotta tweak something. I thought I changed that. Episode 7, week 6 preview. There we go. I thought I changed that already. Got it. Don't need that little message there from good old Zoom in the picture. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and get out this little message here. Haven't checked to see if Gene's in chat yet. I'll look at that in just a second. Give the proper. Let's see here. Hey all. Here. We'll do that. All right. Now let's go back over here and check it. What up, Gene? Hitting the button. Where'd the button go? Oh, that's lame. It has combined the button into a more, like, you should have the
recording in progress.
The record button, I think, should be a main button, not like nested inside some sort of little lame more options. Fail, Zoom. Big fail on your part right there. That needs to be, maybe that's just a personal thing. I don't know. It's what I'm doing with. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Welcome back to the show. I know we had a little break for the international friendlies that are still currently going on. So we have that here, but we're going to talk a little bit about week 5. I know it's been a bit of time since we had that. We have the social has gone out on the Twitter Xverse, and we have Blue Sky, and we've also got the message gone out over on Discord. So if you would be so kind, please do share that information so that we can have more people joining us to talk MLS fantasy. If this is the first time that you have joined us here live on YouTube, welcome. You have found the best MLS fantasy community in this little niche game of ours online. We come to you live pretty much every Monday, just giving you preview of what's coming up for the official MLS fantasy game this year, brought to you by Kickbase. Yeah, we're super excited for everyone to be here, to be back. Got everything out there. Let's see here. People coming, rolling in there. What's up, Eric? What's up, Gene? What's up, Isaac? Glad to have people here. Ready to hear your questions soon. I'll check over at Twitter real quick to see. Nobody said questions. I was like, we're back. We have questions. What do you want to talk about? And people are like, that's fine. We'll just talk about whatever Tyler wants to talk about. That's what I say. That's what I say right here as I make sure my dog's
I don't know what
paper.
I want to talk about. Can we talk about going to bed or something?
Going to bed? What? It's like you've got a big, energetic, sapping job. What?
No,
Dog.
not me.
There you go. Sorry, I had to get my dog a bone. She randomly found a fortune cookie wrapper. I have no idea. She just finds all these things. So, but she's good. She's got a bone. Let's go ahead and get, let's see here, things started. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Week 6 of the 2026 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by the international break. Things slow down, but we don't here at MLSFI. Actually brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Find out more over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Tyler Norman. What's going on, man?
Hey, how are we doing? I'm doing pretty good.
I am also doing pretty good. Glad to have you back here on the show. Trying to get some of the little the cobwebs shaken out after the international break. I mean, if a 5-2 trouncing doesn't shake out some cobwebs enough for you, then I guess that's about it. I suppose we could have done a little fun brought to you by with samey jerseys or whatever sort of nonsense that was with the U.S. game, but I feel like a lot of people are talking about that, and it was definitely an interesting little kit matchup right there.
Oh man, that was crazy. Just the different color shorts. Both teams didn't have their alternatives.
I remember I saw an article today where they were talking about like trying to frantically go back to the hotels and find things. I don't know. It's just wild. I think is all I have to say about that. And I know some people are complaining and whatever, but it is what it is. It's a friendly. Whatever happens, it'll just be another little bit of history that we can all refer back to at some point right there.
Yeah, like the snow game.
Like the snow game. Exactly. Exactly. Let's see here. I see someone in chat asking if we are only going to be covering Kickbase, if there's any sofa score segments at all. Yeah, I mean, we've had some questions about that throughout the season. Of course, if you're newer to joining in or just coming into fantasy, things did switch over with the providers this year. So it is Kickbase is the official home of the official MLS fantasy game. But there are some extra games out there. And our goal for this year has been to just try to provide some broad advice as we approach the game. We lean into some of the kick-based elements that are out there because it's a new game. It's a game that we're exploring, and there's some parts of it like the rush challenges that I think are definitely fun, and we've made a part of the end of the show to talk about those things because they're neat little spins and takes on MLS fantasy that we'll get to in a second. But yeah, I mean, you may hear us reference some of the scoring metrics as we're trying to figure them out with Kickbase. But if you're using another system, which I know they're out there, we still think the advice is pretty sound from a general point of view. But people are always welcome to ask questions. And little teaser, you can still check out the articles at MLSFantasyBoss.com because I know Tyler and his team are covering everything. They're giving you tips for differentials that you can look at for all the platforms and all the games. So we are not snubbing our nose at any of the game systems, but just frankly, we can't cover everything as in depth as we would like to. So we're rolling with the official, but still trying to keep a broad view of it all. So I appreciate the question, appreciate the reminder. I thought it was good to respond to that one right now because I mean, man, Tyler, it's been a couple of weeks since week 5. We've had call-ups, we've had injuries, we have undoubtedly rotations. Is there much from the past week that you at least want to even touch on before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the show today that you think stands out that fantasy managers are going to want to keep in mind?
Yeah, I just kind of want to touch on different forms of different teams and see how that's going to play into this week. So for me, looking at different not players, teams, Charlotte seems to be doing good. Like on paper, they look like they're playing so well. But what's behind those stats is they've been going against teams with red cards. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, but when you play against a team with a red card, typically you're going to do very well and dominate the game. So keep that in mind if you are looking at Charlotte players, even though they have been scoring well, such as like BL, he's scoring quite well. He has been going against teams with red cards. Now, a team that I think is actually just straight up dangerous, like they are probably the best team out there right now, and that's saying a lot. Nashville is dangerous. They look so good when they are not like in CCC hangover, they're just having their own regular season game. That team is so good. The front of you have Christian Espinoza, Sam Surridge, who already has 8 goals on the season,
Yeah.
and then you have Hani Mukhtar, and people aren't even talking about the other side of the field, but you have people like Madrigal, who's still putting up pretty good points. You have Patrick Yazbek, who's playing a great holding mid position. You have Palacios as a center back, and he's been a consistent high scoring defender. Nashville just looks really good all around. So keep your eyes on them as they're starting to get out of CCC. I think they did advance though. So, but keep your eyes on them because they're gonna start really lighting up this league. I also want to look back on San Jose because we had seen when they played against, I think it was San Diego, and we were like, oh, they're not actually that good. They lost to San Diego. and or no, that's this week. They got stomped by Seattle. And we
Yes.
were like, yeah, well, maybe they aren't as good as we thought. But then they went out and they shut out Vancouver in Vancouver. And that was a game where I believe Berhalter started still, but Mueller was benched. So you still had quite a strong lineup. I believe Brian White also started.
Look
And
it up right now. Yeah, White was on there, but Berhalter was not, and neither
oh,
was Mueller.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But either way, San Jose still played quite well, and being able to get a shutout even after their stars come in takes a lot in Vancouver, mind you. So maybe keep an eye on them. This week they play San Diego, and I think we've talked about this before, but if they can hold San Diego to a very few points or even win that game, maybe we need to start targeting San Jose as a potential option going forward. Um, just my own little insight on this. The Galaxy look really good in their CCC games, and I'm trying to determine, can that translate to MLS games? Because they've looked so good. Peck got a hat trick, and then I think the next game he scored 2. But then in MLS he gets a red card after scoring 1. So it's like, is he really gonna do well, or is he just kind of chilling? And then I'm just gonna go out there and say right now, my personal MVP for this season, actually Sam Sturridge is definitely, but the second runner for MVP for me is Nico Fernandez for Nashville or NYCFC. He looks so good. He takes corners, he scores in open, he scores free kicks. This guy's just so good. And I think he also has like 6 or 7 goals. No, that wasn't a joke on the season. So he's definitely one to keep your eyes on going forward as well. What are your thoughts, Reid?
Yeah, I'll build on a little bit of what you were saying, just kind of some general teams. I mean, we're continuing to see Orlando struggle, and they were not one of the teams that we were marking as like to target at the beginning of the year, but I think they've fallen into that category and have still stayed there even after we've tried to give them a few weeks to see if something built up. It has not so far, so interesting to see if that stays after this little break. Didn't get, I mean, they had a few people who were called up. I've got that list loaded up over here right now. Give me just a second. Alphabet. There we go. I mean, they had a handful of people called up. I mean, let's see here, 7. So yeah, not nothing to turn your nose at, but it included Ojeda and Crepeau and lots of those guys. So just keep an eye on them. It's still one that we're looking at, kind of in that same category. I mean, right now, Sporting Kansas City, Orlando, 2 teams a lot of us are definitely targeting. People who are still on the bubble, I think that's a little bit of Colorado still there, kind of on the bubble of who you're targeting against. I think Cincinnati has to be one that for some is there, and then Montreal I think is there. Very situational for some of the successes that we've seen with Montreal, but both ways. But there's some pains that some teams have been going through, and they're definitely one that I think is still fantasy relevant as we're making our picks, especially coming off of this international break. I mean, in Red Bull, I'm going to put on there as well. Tyler and I were talking about at the beginning of the show that they've really started out the season kind of hot, but they've quickly kind of burnt out. A lot of youth, coaching changes. It's a team that's given you very limited options when you're trying to find some fantasy viable players, even if you think that they have a favorable matchup. So it's a team that's difficult to work with, and one that maybe more than often than not is okay to target or not invest in. Uh, and I teased it a little bit there when I was talking about Orlando, but Cincinnati's in trouble. I mean, if you're looking at them fantasy wise, it's a team that you can almost start to reliably bet against, especially I think with a lot of stuff that's going on this round. Things have not been firing on either end of the field for them, so just a lot of questions and a lot of things that fantasy managers should be taking mind of, because we've even seen teams a little bit lower in who we would expect to be successful, but because Cincinnati's been allowing players to get opportunities in games like Kickbase, those players are generating more stats, becoming more fantasy viable and productive for players. So that's one to keep an eye on. And then you had talked about sort of wondering about San Jose. I think they're there. Like I think there is offensive viability for San Jose right now. I'm not quite sure about the defensive options, though they've been doing well. We've just not seen a lot of that translate into points for their players. But I think they've been a bit more
I
attractive.
mean, to be fair, I believe their only goal that they gave up was, or their goals that they've given up were to Seattle, right? They haven't given up goals outside of that, or am I
They
wrong in that?
I don't have that right at the top of the hand, but it's just, like I said, it's been those points. Like we still have Mooney, who's near the top of the averages in the total in kick base when you're going through looking at those points. If you're in a game that's leaning more into clean sheets, more options there if you're doing the clean sheet hunting. But just with the way the bonus point structure is set up, they've not been as productive as we've seen other players. There's a really good mix. I mean, we've seen LAFC players are more clustered to the top than really other teams. We've got a good amount of Seattle players as well up there, and haven't really seen the bonus points be spread as far for San Jose, and then even players like Mooney are still very much, their averages are impacted by that first game where he got that brace.
Yeah. And
So
I just looked, yeah, they've only given up one goal, which was to Seattle.
and it's just not. So if you're in something like SofaScore, with you're looking for those clean sheet bonus points, there's something very attractive right there with those teams, and of course going up against a weakened San Diego is something that could be very, very attractive. One quick update I will just say, because that's really all that I have for looking back to week 5. We saw some huge points, some huge totals there. I know Nashville racked it up, Charlotte racked it up, like a lot of big points totals there. Don't forget, we were seeing the beginning of rotations at this time, and so several cards that we saw as well. So there's some elements at play right there that'll carry over. But before I move on, I want to do 2 things. First, go to chat if you guys have any questions, any reactions about the past round, or just how you're feeling right now with fantasy. Drop them in there. But also, if you are paying attention and playing the Kickbase game, there are some new updates that just came out. When you are looking at your players now on their player profile view, and you're looking at their previous scores, and you see the bar graphs, you can now tap on the bar, and it will take you to that specific game, so you can see the point breakdown for that game for that player. It was
Such a good update.
Yeah, it was actually a suggestion that came from our community, which again I'm just using to highlight something that we've seen at the beginning of the season. We were saying we were very impressed by how involved the powers that be at Kickbase were, seeming to get feedback from the community, and I think this is an example of that. It's why we are still invested in this partnership and in this game, is because we've appreciated the openness from that team, and little updates like this that we see throughout the season just help to reinforce that they are wanting to hear the feedback from the players. And so we're here as long as they're here to do that. And I will say, of course, the general feedback, as a reminder, that we have heard from people on that side, and definitely from we the players, is that last week was a prime example of the rolling lockouts, of just the sheer madness of players not being available and rotations and coming in. It was clearly seen. So I think they understand that well and good now with that. But I did want to call that out for people who are playing that game, that it's an easy way to see the breakdown. We're still pushing for better breakdowns of the stats, and it's something that we hope we'll be able to come to fruition at some point. But checking over at the chat real quick, just seeing in there. Look, one question with LAFC attacker. Which LAFC attacker would be best to get in against Orlando? We will definitely touch on that in just a second, Isaac. So I appreciate that question. We will get there. All right. Well, that's a little bit of that throwback. We have a few more things. I know this is almost like kind of starting out anew. It's been a nice little break, and the games are all going to happen right before Easter weekend, and we'll be coming up and covering more of that housekeeping and the players that we're targeting right after this. Okay, which I think, funny, even though Kickbase updated the table to get rid of dates, and they just say Saturday or Sunday now, they still list a bunch of games being played on Sunday. And I'm like, no, no, there are
At
no
least you have-
games on
Do you have
Sunday.
iOS or
No, it's
iPhone?
Android. Maybe the update
Let me
hasn't
see
gotten
what
pushed out.
mine says.
Yes.
Toronto 7 or sorry.
From
10
the
a.m. for
Houston
me.
game down, I see it's listed as Sunday.
Mine says Saturday.
See, I think it's
Yeah, they all say Saturday for me.
yep. They still haven't got it pushed out there. Boo, boo! I say boo.
So it looks like it's just for Apple right now.
Yeah. And I know they had mentioned that last time that was out there, but I am not an iOS user. Shrink that down. Let's get the right there. Let's see here. Post. You know, I thought about that too, Ray. If it was a time zone thing, and I mean, other people have said, like Kickbase people have said that it's an iOS Android thing, but I still feel like that's probably the
I thought it was a
source
time
of
zone
it.
thing initially.
Like from Germany, with them being based over there, like the you don't cross the date line when you're doing that, but I still felt like that was probably it. So yeah, I think, Ray, that's the source of the issue is wherever the servers are based, that it's rolling over to the next day, and so because it's the 8:30 games, and it's usually those later games that we were always
Yep.
seeing. We're
I
getting
saw
caught.
that early on too.
Yeah.
But now it looks fine for me.
Blah, 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 for you. Let's see here. All right, let's see. Okay, we've got the social out there on Twitter, X, Blue Sky, all of that good stuff right there. So please do again like and share, subscribe, get that information out there, and we are going to jump right into the next part of the show. Hello and welcome back. We're talking about our Week 6 preview of the 2026 MLS Fantasy season. We're going to give you a quick bit of housekeeping here. Not too deep. No one's on a bye week. No one's on a double game week. But do remember that this week, Tuesday, for many players, but for U.S.-based teams, but a lot of games are international friendlies are wrapping up this week, and players will start to return. So for a lot of those players who play for the U.S. men's national team, Canadian national team, Mexican national team, they're playing domestically here in the U.S., and so they will be returning to their teams this weekend. All of the teams are playing on Saturday, April 4th. Kicks off with Toronto versus Colorado at 1 p.m., but for those players, not too far to travel. Other players who are playing outside the United States, definitely a different scenario with plane travel that they're having to deal with. So we mentioned that in just that this is almost more difficult than the previous round where people were getting ready to leave because you had a bit more expectation. I'll get some minutes out of these guys. It's going to be a mixed bag by country for which players are available, and it's going to be an additional mixed bag by team for how much time they're going to be giving those players to get some extra rest before folding back into the team, if any, depending on which player it happens to be. So that's another level right there. Frustration. Those you
How
playing,
many Bawongas are we gonna get?
that's right. How many Bawangas are we going to get? So for those of you playing Kickbase, you're just gonna have to go with it. When the games lock at 1 o'clock, all of them, and that's it. Those of you on SofaScore, somebody has the rolling lockouts. Be sure to just have your plan in place for who you're planning on rotating in or rotating out as you're going down, and don't get caught too late with those players in the final games, because we were just talking about San Jose earlier on. Vancouver, San Jose, LA, good source of teams or good source of players for your team, and they're all playing right there at that 10:30 spot at night. So if you end up being there, have a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very important. Tyler, if you've got some information about red cards or any other particular players you're particularly worried about call-ups, definitely shout it out. I mean, I'll know for those not paying attention, Robinson, He's out for Cincinnati.
Yeah. I was just gonna cover red cards,
Yeah.
and then two injuries that I'm really looking at that are close to coming back, if not coming back this week. So for Cincinnati, there were two red cards. You have Valenzuela and Miles Robinson are both going to be out this week. For Houston, it's the Houston Markanich, not the Minnesota one, but he will be out, and then Sviatchenko is also going to be out, which is a center back. Kamal Miller for Portland is suspended on a red. Berggren for the Red Bulls is suspended on a red, and then a big one, Christopher McVeigh is suspended on a red card. Couple of injuries that I'm eyeing for a potential return, like either this week or in the upcoming weeks. Ryan Gauld has been practicing in a pretty decent amount, so keep an eye on him as he starts to return. And then kind of reflecting back to that question that Isaac was asking, I did some research on Steven Eustáquio because I feel like he's been the primary reason LAFC was initially hammering out a lot of goals. And on the 19th, it said he was going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks with a blood clot in his leg. So it's been 2 weeks now. He could be getting back, or it could be 2 more weeks. What do you got? Anything else?
No, I think that was a good one right there. So yeah, please do check out. Keep those in mind. Be sure to check out maybe even if you're targeting a player, look at their international time and see what kind of minutes they got there to help you gauge. I mean, we can't check all of those, but if you like a guy who's coming back, just see how much he played. See if you think he's feeling good. If he maybe got some rotation at the end, maybe that's a good sign. What you might see. I still would not be shocked if the majority of these players had limited minutes on their first game back from the international game, especially still so early in the season when there's lots of room to rebound and build back up. Definitely want to manage those minutes, keep the guys healthy so that you have them for when needed. But I'm not a coach for anybody over 5 years old, so you can take that as it is for coaching strategy, but that has been a consistent pattern that we've seen in past years with just how managers have managed and how they've impacted our fantasy lineups. We've been trying to deal with that. Okay, so enough about that. That's how everything lines up. Just be sure you have everything set for Saturday because that's when all of the games are. So nothing on Sunday. It's Easter weekend, so everything will be finished by then, so people can enjoy that time. Those who are taking it, if not, you have some time of just no soccer, just to decompress over the weekend. So enjoy that. But Tyler, that's the games. That's how it's laid out. Ultimately, though, you've got to have players to fill those little spots on your team.
What? Really?
You do. So chat.
I thought it was just icons.
It's icons. It's jerseys. It's whatever happens to be there. Faces, nameless or filled in. We'll see what they are. But you got to have someone there, or you're going to get dock points depending on what game you're playing. But so if you're in chat, let us know who you're looking at for keepers and defenders. Tyler, let's start with you.
Yeah, I actually have a kind of a toss-up with my goalie right now. And I'm having a hard time fully choosing them. And most of my goalies are based on actions. But I think for a clean sheet, I'm going to start with that because that's kind of like general for every league or every platform. What's a good thing to look at? I personally think LAFC has a pretty good chance at a clean sheet this week. They still have yet to be scored on this season. So they probably do have a pretty good chance once again. But I mean, they're playing Orlando. Orlando is traveling across the country. They haven't been that great already. So Hugo Lloris is a great clean sheet shout if you're looking for a keeper for that. But for me, I'm actually not looking at that for kick base. So I'm between 3 different players based on the actions that I'm expecting to come. I'm between Andrew Thomas, Brad Stuver, and Pantemis for Portland. Pantemis already has shown that he's scoring almost 100 every single week based on actions alone because Portland doesn't really have that great of a defense. Stuver kind of the same thing, and they're playing against Miami this week. So chances are he's going to get a lot of actions. It's just, will the goals that he gets scored on outweigh those actions? And then for me, the last one, Andrew Thomas, a little bit homery, but Houston loves to shoot the ball a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And Andrew Thomas is actually a pretty good open field keeper. So I would expect him to get quite a few saves and likely get 100 plus points in kick base. So I'm struggling over my goalie, but I think it's going to be one of those three. Currently, I'm leaning towards Stuver, I think. For defenders, I already highlighted him, but I'm looking at Palacios for Nashville. I think he's yet to score under 100 this season, and he's doing great with how Nashville has been playing. Segura, I feel like he's kind of a lock, always getting that clean sheet, also gets the extra bonus points. So he's been my like McVay this year, you know? And then Tavon Gray gets into the attack. NYC is playing at Yankee Stadium again this week, so no shame in picking up one of their defenders, their wingbacks that loves to get forward. Then a little bit of a new name. I'm looking at Lopez for Seattle. And for anyone who doesn't know, he's like he was for Tacoma Defiance, which is the Seattle's second team. And he got called up for like 1 or 2 games and had an absolutely stellar performance. And he's basically now the current starting center back ahead of Yamar because Yamar got injured. So keep an eye on him. He already is averaging very high points in kick base, and I think he's doing pretty well in other leagues or other platforms based on what I've heard from my other writers in my article. So I'd say probably a good shot to pick him up regardless of what's going on. Who are you looking at, Reid?
No, I like those right there. That's nice. I have some similar names on my list as well. Keeper is still, I know we've talked about before, a difficult one to pick this year with the kick base systems because it isn't as clean sheet driven. I think you're right. Lloris, Takaoka, I think again this season have been fairly good shout outs for clean sheets, but have not seen it produced in points. Even some of what I've seen in SofaScore, the keeper points are very minimal from what we see with other actions. But yeah, if you're looking for clean sheets, I think those are pretty good right there. I love the shout out for Thomas and Suver and Pentemis. Like I think that lines up completely with the actions that we've been trying to track and trying to go. So those are great shout outs for some of those road players as well. I'm going to throw Daniel in the mix. And that's because of the San Diego rotation. I'm not sure how to take the game, but some of their big players are still there who have offensive ability. We've been seeing some of the success that San Jose has had, but I think they'll have chances for shots to go still. And I think Daniel will see some action, and he's still been staying high in some of his average point total. So I think he's going to put on the list. And then I'm also going to put Freese on there. I was kind of back and forth between Freese or Berkey, but I'm going to lean towards Freese for the home advantage. And that's because also St. Louis has been generating a good number of shots. I mean, if you just look at their last couple of games, they had 10 shots in the last game in week 5 where they won 3-1 against the Revolution. And then when they lost against LAFC, they had almost 20 shots, I think. In that game. Yeah, and they still lost like 2-0 or whatever it was. So they just didn't get it on. You got to get them out there. Got to get them on target. But they were generating those those chances right there. And they've only had one player called up, so they're pretty intact with their main guys you want to go to. So I mean, I think that could they may not make it work in New York City. So I think Freese has got a decent shot at a clean sheet. Maybe not quite as good as some of those other guys, but a decent shot there. But I like his potential to get some actions for what it looks like St. Louis is able to generate. Going over to chat real quick. Yeah, Gene's right there with Freese as well. No surprise. Oh, defenders. Again, I tracked a lot with you with there. I'm not sure about Vancouver defenders this week because they've had so many guys called up, lots of people coming in and out. That would be my only concern about Takaoka as well. But yeah, Segura, Gray, Lopez, someone from Nashville, like all those guys, definitely good. I'm interested a little bit though in this RSL game
Okay.
as a maybe a potential. And the reason I want to give out some options here is because it's going to tie into the kick-based week 6 rush of you're going to need to have a lot of options for how you want to use your players. So I want to be sure
Yes,
we're
you do.
covering players right here. But that RSL game that's coming up, I think could be a good shot. They're going up against Sporting Kansas City, who has not been good. It's like I said earlier, one of the teams we're targeting, and so I think this is a shot where RSL could come up with a clean sheet. They could have at least a lot of scrappy back and forth opportunities where their defenders are getting into situations where they need to do blocks and interceptions and clearances and all that. And so Engel was a standout player at Cincinnati, and so he's got a lot of skill. He's got offensive threat as well to him, and so I think he's a good shout for a player who could work. I would normally say Sanabria would be the one I would go to. With he's got a bit more higher average of his actions there, but he was called up, and I don't know what his status will be returning to the United States. So I'd probably lean Engel if you want to try. I mean, you can go with Glad, one of those guys, but his averages have been a little bit lower, and so I think I like the offensive ability that Engel brings to that game. And then, like, I want to go with Miami, someone from Miami because they're going up. They've got a good game this week. I think they've had some good opportunities in the past, and they're going up against Austin, who hasn't been very offensively minded. But they've just had so many guys called up that it's really hard to narrow down. So I'm just gonna put Miami out there. They're probably not gonna make my cut, but if you're ending up that you're wanting to get something different, maybe look at see what Tyler's differential team comes up with right there, or you look at Miami and say, "Am I crazy for thinking this guy?" I think there's a good shout. I just have a hard time narrowing down who I would want to and feel good about with all of the rotation that's happened, and some who I feel are more solid options with teams that I'm more confident in here. But it's not out. I just want to say that because it's not out in left field. I think if you're thinking that that's something you want to look at. Let's see here. Looking at the chat. A chat from Ray. So he says for the SofaScore players, he likes. Let's see here. Gavrin and or Zimmerman. He said those are great picks there with Toronto. With the early home game matches for the next 7 weeks, which are great for previewing points. That is just straight up good advice in general for being able to check that first game for any of the systems to see who is actually going to be out there. And the Toronto Colorado game is interesting. Zimmerman definitely adds a lot more stability to Toronto. We've seen Colorado have some success on offense lately. Those are definitely two mediocre teams right now. Toronto maybe is on an uptick. I could see some offensive options that Toronto may have. But yeah, I can't fault you for wanting to go with Toronto at home against Colorado. That's definitely not. Zimmerman's a great shout out for that. I know last week, I believe week 5, he was out because of a concussion protocol. He had taken himself out of the game. I'm not sure if he missed the next one. It's been a couple weeks now. I don't remember which one that was. But when they played Cincinnati, he pulled himself out because he was sort of suffering from a concussion. I think they sat him, but I have to go back and check. All right, let's move on to midfielders. Tyler, who are you looking at?
So just so we're clear, I personally am doing a 4-2-4 lineup. So I only have 2 midfielders, but I'm gonna give a bunch of different options.
Interesting.
I really like Beal this week, and I know I talked about him earlier saying, "Oh, they're only scoring because they get red cards." Well, they attract red cards. So maybe Beal is worth a shot. I just they also are playing against a Philly team, and Philly has not been very good, period. They've actually, I think they're 0-4, 0-5 right now. Let me check really quick. I want to make sure that's
They
right.
are on the struggle bus.
Yeah, they are 0-5 with a total of 3 goals and 9 goals against. So I think that's a very good shot for Charlotte to make them 0-6. And BL is definitely that guy to keep an eye on. I put a question mark on Berhalter because I really want Berhalter, but they have a game midweek.
Yeah.
And will he be able to get back to Vancouver and then also start at that point? So I'm a little worried about him, and he probably is going to change, but I would love to have Berhalter if he's an option. My backup currently is just Verskov. Pretty solid backup in my opinion, and they don't have that CCC match before, so I do not think that he will rotate. But then some other guys that I think are worth mentioning. Rusnak, I think he's worth a shot. Seattle's been playing pretty good, and it's kind of teetering between Rusnak and Jesus Ferreira with who's actually playing better that week. I think Rusnak is definitely worth a look though. And in the same game, I think Jack McGlynn is also worth a look. He's already played well for Houston for 2 seasons now, and also played well for Philly before that. And he's like their playmaker. So McGlynn is definitely someone to keep an eye on. I also like Maxi Morales. Maybe it's a little bit of my draft bias, but Morales, basically I'm living in like 2018, 2019 where Maxi was just so good. And I keep imagining that he's that player. Probably not worth going for him, but I'm going to mention his name just in case someone wants to take a shot at something. My last guy is kind of more for people looking for either a cheap guy or looking for like a rush pick. Wiki Carmona for Montreal. He's been playing pretty solid. Kind of up and down games, but overall, he is the playmaker for them, as weird as that sounds. And he's been the one that's getting more consistent points than any other Montreal player. So having them on the road to New England, who's a team that's kind of on that struggle side as well, I think Carmona is worth at least taking a peek at if you need to try to fit in somebody for like a league where you only have one player that you can put on that, or like per team. But yeah, those are the midfielders that I'm looking at. Who are you looking at, Reid?
Again, some similar names, so I won't really worry a lot about the overlap that we have here. So I'm going to throw in Mukhtar on that list. Did not get called up. Not too many call ups for Nashville right there. Just like 6. But I mean, I think definitely still not all the players are. I mean, some of them are U21. Some of them are definitely not the starters. So I think Mukhtar is still a good shout out for this round on the road to Chicago. So Chicago, not a team we target, but definitely I think a team that gives opportunities for their opponents. And so I think Mukhtar is still in the mix depending on where you want to spend those players. I am not just rolling with 2 midfielders, so I will have some additional options. right there. I'm going to say Mihailovic right there. We talked about Toronto already. I mean, I think there will be some opportunities for Toronto, and I think he's a player you could potentially look at to get there. Um, Another team that did not have a lot of call ups is LA Galaxy, and I think Royce has been doing well the last couple of games, and I think there's a good shout out for him as getting a spot this round when some other guys may not be as guaranteed, and I think he's earning a part of the conversation anyway. Um, for Atlanta, I know we've talked about them some in the past with who you might want to target. They're going against Columbus, which again another team that's struggling, not quite maybe target team area, but definitely has not been the kind of season that Columbus has wanted as they're rebuilding with a new coach. But with Almiron coming back, I'm not sure if he'll start, but I think Moranchuk is another option you could look to. He's had some good production already in the round and in the season, and I think that he's a good option there. Delgado at LAFC. I mean, he's been high in the average points, total points, and some of the other players are coming back from rotations, and so I think he's a good one if you're looking for some options there. Yeah, I think that covers a lot of the guys we're looking at here. That's a good healthy amount of midfielders because you're going to want to run. But again, yeah, McGlynn, Berhalter, Beal, those guys definitely agree that those are some good solid options for this round. Going into chat, Gene, yeah, Johnson. Is that Johnson from Sporting Kansas City, Gene? Is that who you're talking about? Give Gene a second to respond. If is this the Johnson that you're speaking of? Yes, Gene likes Johnson. Not on my radar. He got a goal in a lot of actions in week 4. Not so much happening against Colorado past round, and so this time against Real Salt Lake. Definitely a budget option. I don't know. I'd be curious, Gene, to hear more about why you like Johnson. I do think that one's kind of left field for me, but maybe one that Team Ranchinator will have as a differential. Maybe there's more there than meets the eye. So I appreciate that shout out and that tip. All right, let's move on to forwards. Tyler, you're running with 4, so I'm hoping you to come just with all of the forward options. So who are you looking at?
You want all of them? All right, let's name every forward
No,
option.
everyone that you're looking at.
I currently have Guilherme. He's, in my opinion, the kick base MVP for the season so far. He's been very consistent, like 200 plus scores for 4 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's someone that I feel like you need to have on your team regardless of who he's playing. I currently have Sam Surridge, the next Golden Boot leader right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have him? And they're also playing a Chicago team like you mentioned earlier. So if you're gonna have Mukhtar or not have Mukhtar, you might as well have someone in the attack, which is Surridge. I tooted his horn earlier, but Nico Fernandez was probably the first person on my team. Absolutely amazing player. NYC is at home at Yankee Stadium. I don't feel like I need to say more past that. And then the last one's a little bit of a toss-up. And that sounds so weird to say with Messi being in the mix still. I currently have Messi. However, he is on international duty right now. And I don't think that they will play him as a starter when he comes back. So right now, I'm looking at what my backup option is. I have a few different options. Whether it's an LAFC guy of Sun or Bawanga, which I'll get there in a minute, and that will go all the way back to Isaac's question at the beginning. I'll cover that in a minute. It's either a LAFC guy of those, but I also really like Peck this week. You mentioned that the Galaxy haven't really had anybody called up. Royce has been playing decently well. Peck has been playing wonderful in CCC, and I'm starting to wonder, can he translate that into MLS play? This week would be a great week to do that. They're playing against Minnesota, and they need to make some strides, otherwise they're going to start falling pretty off the wayside pretty quickly like they did last season. Now, I've said all this and I haven't even mentioned Dryer. Another name who he was called up, but he is consistently scoring quite high numbers. So, do I want a player like Dryer? I mean, I would love to have him, but I'm uncertain whether he's going to start or not. Especially considering San Diego's been really good about rotating, good/bad about rotating their team a lot. If I'm going for a cheap option though, say you guys are like a 250 mil or something, Garavogi for RSL, he's been scoring very well even without getting goals, and he's only 23.7 mil currently with Kickbase. So he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on there. All right, going back to Sun versus Bwanga. I want to take a little side quest here with you. We kind of talked about this a few weeks ago, but that was while Sun and Bwanga were playing well. Now they've had 2 weeks in a row where both of them score under 100 points in Kickbase. I personally believe this is because Eustáquio is out, and he's been like their motor that keeps them running. So I'm not sure if I want either of them, even though they're playing against an Orlando team. If I do go for one, though, I personally think that Bwanga is the person that I would go for. And that's simply because I've mentioned this before, but he's on the set pieces. He's been their face for a lot longer. Plus, Sun is coming back from international duty with South Korea, so I think Bwanga is going to be the one that gets more minutes. What are your thoughts on the Sun versus Bwanga, though?
I don't disagree with that. I think it's a toss up in general, and I feel like I like my I'm running 3 forwards, and I feel like I like those 3 better than that game, just because I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I've got Surridge on my team because of what you said. I've got Guilherme on my team as well for the very same reasons that you mentioned for him. The other one that I have on my team for my third forward is he has scored 4 goals in 5 games. One little hiccup in the middle. Average is a little bit lower in Kickbase than he has been at the early part, but with the potential rotation, I think this is a great time. And he still plays for San Diego. That's Ingvarsson. 4 goals in 5 games, and we just completely dismiss him because just Dryer is the standout option when we're talking here. And we're not usually going to double up with the forwards because San Diego has players 3 deep with every position that we would like to have as we fill out our team. And so he usually ends up just getting cut because of that. But still has been doing fantastic, and I think it's a good shout out this round, especially with some of the potential rotation risk that we're seeing with San Diego right there. So that's how I would round out. I mean, I am not blind to Messi. I sort of have the same reservations you do, Tyler, with him traveling, coming back. Is this a game that he's going to get limited minutes on? Probably doesn't not play, especially at home, but could be a 60-minute sub kind of thing right there that we've seen pretty consistently.
Which we've seen him come on at that time.
And we have absolutely seen him come on with that. But again, this is that situation of you've got these other guys who have some consistency. Are you going to put your captain on a 40-minute Messi if he comes on there? Is that what you're going to do? sometimes it's that risk reward where you're going to put that on. So that's a tell. To me, that's too much. I have no issue not playing Messi though. Just me in general. But
Yep.
good options there. Definitely a good conversation. Ultimately, though, you got to pick someone to be your captain. Who are you looking at, Tyler?
I'm thinking Nico Fernandez for NYC.
Okay, I was a little surprised with that one, but because I thought we were going to be more aligned after hearing some of your conversation there, and I'm looking at putting it on Guilherme right now. Just those big numbers that he's had.
I think for me, it's the fact that Seattle has a goalie who's quite good
Sure.
in net. And no offense to Fry, but I think Thomas is a better shot stopper.
Okay.
So even though we're in Houston, I think Guilherme might have a little bit of a harder time finding the back of the net.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. My backup, I would probably switch down to maybe Royce. I think he's been doing really well in his last couple of games. Has a good run of form that I like, and for that matchup against Minnesota, I think it's good. I think it's a good opportunity for him. Pretty solid team there is with not being taken up by call-ups. So I think he'd be a number 2 that I'd pick.
Yeah, I think Surge is a great option this week too.
Yep.
There's a lot of good options.
Yep. On the road, but I wasn't worried about that in the past. So, but he is on the road. If you're concerned about that one,
I'm not.
that's fine. You don't have to be. Just people listening.
Yeah.
All right, and that brings us to the Week 6 Rush Challenge that we talked about. So as everyone knows, if you're new, each week Kickbase comes out with a different Rush Challenge. Sometimes they're themed, or they're always themed, but sometimes they're from celebrities or just from whatever the general option is. It's similar to what we saw for Week 5, but it is a $300 million budget. You are limited to one player per club that ever you select. But you can play with any lineup. The last Week 5, we only had a limited number of lineups. But for this week, you can choose from any of the 11 lineup options that Kickbase gets you, but you are only limited to one player per team when you're going through that. So that's why we try to really lay out a lot of options here, because that's going to be it. If you pick Gray for your defense option, you can't get Nico up there. So if it's just not gonna work. So Tyler, how are you approaching? I love what you called this. So how are you approaching navigating the Week 6 Rush Challenge?
So it's only for the Rush Challenge that they have this, and I'm so happy they have this. But they have a 2-3-5 formation. So I'm calling this the reverse Christmas tree, because you got one goalie, 2 defenders, 3 mids, and then I have 5 forwards. So Reid probably watched me do this. I switched my players in the middle of this, but my forward options, I'm going with Peck, Guilherme, Giavogi, Nikau, and Surridge up top. And then I'm going to go Tverskov, BL, and Wiki Carmona in my midfield. Lopez and Segura on defense. And then I'm kind of between Pantomis and Stuver out in the back end, but I'm kind of leaning Stuver there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, no notes. I mean, that's absolutely solid. I mean, I think we've talked about some other forward options that people could have. I mean, it's really going to come down to how are you going to balance some of these choices. Are you going to lean into the forward? Are you going to lean into the midfielder for your offensive options there? Having plenty of defense is gonna be that. You're gonna hit a budget constraint. Is that within 300 million?
No, I've already made this lineup in.
Okay, so so this is within 300 million. Okay.
Yes.
I feel 300 million is a good budget for this. I mean, 250 would definitely make it harder, but I feel like this is still a very rewarding team to pick. Like, you recognize the names, you feel good about what their production is, and you don't feel like you're having to compromise having a solid fantasy lineup on some flyers or differentials that you're just, especially during call-ups.
And pretty much the only reason this lineup worked is because I cut both Messi and Dryer, which are
Yeah.
the two most expensive players. But I think it's
Could
solely
have
because
risks.
of international.
They have
Yeah.
risks. That's definitely it. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like I said, no notes. I haven't settled on mine yet. I was not looking at the 5 forward option. You know me, I love those attacking midfielders, but
Yeah.
I am definitely going to reconsider that. I mean, my forward lineups were essentially the same of what I just mentioned. Probably wouldn't have gone with Ivarksen because I do like Tverskov right there. But definitely Guilherme and Surge were the two that I was looking at. But yeah, no, this is great. I love that. If you've not checked it out, please do go in and check out the kick-based rushes. I think they're super fun. We've had a lot of fun going through them here. It's very much like the old theme teams that we used to run with Older Goaler here at MLS Fantasy Insider. And so now I don't know if they're going to be like only guys with mustaches. If that's going to be make one of their lineups, but it's definitely fun when they have them. They have some challenges each week. So go ahead and get on that if you like that sort of thing. But this has been super fun. And if anybody else has ideas of how they want to approach this, we'd love to see them in chat, in the comments, over on Twitter X, anything you want to do there. So just let us know how you are approaching the Week 7 Rush Challenge. All right. With covering that brings us to the end of the show tonight. I hope people have found this helpful as they're gearing back up, coming off of that international break lull. This should be a good round. I think there's some good games definitely to watch, and there's going to be some because MLS moments as well with these call-ups as they start coming back in. But let's wrap things up with our plugs. Tyler, who do you want to mention?
I'm at a loss. I don't even know who to mention. I guess you know what? I'll give a shout out to the OG MLS Fantasy podcast guys, which are guys and girls. Blaine, Matt Pollard, I think was on it, right? And then
Yes.
and then there was someone else. I forget who that was before that. And
Yeah.
then Ashley.
Blaine, Mike, Travis, Jason.
Mike, that's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah. We've had all sorts of people
Yeah.
on here. We had I forget some of the people who we've had on as guests over the years. Yeah, no, good time. That's a good shout out. Good shout out right there. I of course will give a shout out to the current lineup of MLS Fantasy Boss contributors over at MLSFantasyBoss.com. Tyler and Team Ranchinator, Ron and his strategy clinic articles that he's been putting out there. So great information that we have there. And of course, MLS Fantasy Boss Discord, the best place for fantasy information and community on the internet. So if you have not checked that out, and this is the first time you're listening to the show, head on over MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord. The easiest way to find that. It's a free group, free community, and it's just some fantastic place to hang out. So check that out. It's just such a pleasure to be able to be a part of that community whenever we're going through this big, wild fantasy game that we all love. So check that out. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Welcome back to Fantasy, and as always, good luck.